Okay, so let's start by looking at this. It seems, well, ancient, right? Fragile, maybe even a little forgotten. But what if I told you that hidden inside this object is a story about the most cutting-edge technology? Not just from the distant past, but from right now, from our immediate future.
So, what do you see? At first glance, it's just a piece of an old leaf, isn't it? Worn down by centuries, basically just fighting against time itself. But if that's all you see, you're missing the entire story. To really get what we're looking at here, we've got to shift our perspective. Way back. I'm talking about 2,000 years.
See, this was not just a leaf. Back in the 1st century BCE, this was the absolute peak of technology. It's a palm leaf manuscript, or Paeyopgyung in Korean. But honestly, a much better way to think about it, it was an ancient hard drive, a state-of-the-art device for storing information, engineered with every ounce of skill people had back then.
So, how on earth did they do it? You have to remember, in a place like Sri Lanka, with its hot, humid climate, preserving sacred teachings was a huge challenge. I mean, it was a direct fight against nature itself. And the solution they came up with, it was nothing short of brilliant.
And this process, it was the best data archiving method they had. It was so much more than just scribbling on a leaf. No, this was a super sophisticated technique. First, they had to choose the perfect leaves. Then they'd steam them and dry them out to make the fibers stronger. After that, they'd coat them in these special oils to preserve them. And only then, finally, would they carefully carve the text with an iron stylus and fill it all in with ink. It was an absolute technological marvel for its time.
But here's the thing. There's a problem with all information. It doesn't matter how perfectly you preserve the physical object. The moment it starts to travel, it changes. The journey these teachings took from India all across East Asia. Yet it's this incredible history of translation, but it was also a story of, well, delusion. The message started to get watered down.
Okay, think of it like this. The original message, spoken in languages like Pali and Magadhi, hits its first big filter. It gets translated into the Chinese cultural sphere. Then it hits a second filter when it's translated again, this time into the Korean cultural sphere. And with every single one of those steps, the raw power of the original words just fades. What we're left with is kind of a processed version, buried under all these layers of interpretation.
And that right there, that brings us to the core mission. Because somewhere behind this massive wall of language and time, the original teaching is still there. So the quest becomes, how do we get back to that source? How do we find a way to access the raw, unfiltered Buddhism?
For centuries, that wall just seemed impossible to break through. It was impenetrable. But today we have a tool that is so powerful it can basically act like a time machine. We finally have a modern solution to this very, very ancient problem.
We actually have a way to peel back all those layers of translation. We can finally blow away the dust of centuries and get closer to that original voice than anyone has ever been before. A way to just bypass all the filters and get rid of the noise.
And that tool, that key that can unlock the past, it's artificial intelligence. AI lets us come at these ancient texts in a totally new way. Not like a human translator, who always brings their own biases, but with the raw, analytical power of a machine.
So how does this AI time machine even work? Well, it's trained to ignore the huge linguistic influence of Chinese and Sanskrit, to just sidestep it. Instead, it looks for the patterns of the Buddha's original language, Magadhi, that are still hidden deep inside the Pali texts. And get this, it even analyzes the native languages of the scribes themselves, these old dialects, to figure out what noise they might have accidentally added. It just strips away everything that isn't the original source. And this is where everything starts to come together into something, well, pretty profound, actually. What we're seeing here is this amazing convergence. You've got the ancient quest to preserve wisdom, and it's merging with our modern quest to clarify it. It's two totally different eras of technology, all pointing towards one single goal.
I mean, think about it like this. 2,000 years ago, they fought against the decay of time by engineering the perfect leaf. And here we are, today, fighting against the decay of meaning by engineering the perfect algorithm. It's the exact same human impulse, right? That same relentless drive to connect with a pure idea. The only thing separating us is a couple of thousand years.
So where does all this lead? Well, as AI keeps evolving, getting sharper and more precise, that voice we're all trying to hear is only going to get clearer, more transparent. This whole thing is a quest that's pushing our technology to the absolute limit, all in search of a fundamental truth. And really, the final question isn't just about what we'll find. It's about what happens when the lines between our most advanced tools and our most ancient wisdom just completely disappear.